General Body meeting today. This does happen to be our last meeting of the year, but we had a wonderful year. Guys, please hold your tears afterwards. We really do thank you for taking time out of your Friday to come and be with us today. Today we'll have our former national presidents share their reflections about what this org is, how it can improve your career, your professional development, and just basically get you over that bridge to success and past life. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my Vice President, Zishan Qureshi.
Well, hello everybody. Once again, thank you for coming by. Like you said, I'm Zishan Qureshi, Vice President-elect, I should say. Well, I think, like you said, it's our last meeting of the year, our first inaugural year, but I think it was a success overall. We've made some big time strides. It wouldn't have been possible without all you guys here. So once again, thank you for bearing with us the entire year.
Thank you. Thank you guys. All right. With no further ado, we'd like to introduce our former president, Peter Olatui, to introduce our guest speakers for today.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, M.A.N.R.R.S. Come on. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, good to see you all. And once again, thank you for coming. You know, without nobody, we can actually have a meeting. You all are making M.A.N.R.R.S a reality. And thank you for making this happen. And my part of this agenda is to introduce the speakers and guests for this evening. We have the pleasure of having very important personalities here today. They're coming all the way from DC, and they are wonderful people, a family friend, a mentor, and you know, they are like an inspiration to me. Like I see them, and they're all about helping people. You know, want to help develop people. After the success of students, like, you know, through them, a lot of people have been open to, a lot of opportunities have been open to people. So like, it's really a great honor of having Mr. and Mrs. Butler here today, and they have served as both the husband and the wife. They've served as the former president of the national chapter, M.A.N.R.R.S as a whole, and they are very active. Like you see them, they came with some beautiful stuff for us today. And so like, I would like to give them a very beautiful round of applause for coming here today. Thank you again very much for coming, and we're really happy to see you. And we'll be setting the stage for them without wasting much of our time. And they're going to be here today to tell us about what M.A.N.R.R.S is, why, you know, like, they will tell you what you need to know about M.A.N.R.R.S, the significance of you joining M.A.N.R.R.S, you know, the benefits it entails, and you should feel free to ask questions, because, you know, a lot of questions that comes to most of you, mine most time is, what's the connection with agriculture and my major? Why should I be in M.A.N.R.R.S? I'm not an agri major. I'm not planning to do anything with the farm or something. But trust me, it's not really about that. It's not just about that, frankly, that way. But I will leave it to them. They know much more about M.A.N.R.R.S than I do, and I believe this will be an interesting session for you all. And once again, I'd like to call you for Mr. Butler to come forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to be here. It is certainly true and an honor to be here. And I want to commend you all in terms of your efforts to move toward establishing the M.A.N.R.R.S chapter. It's a monumental task. I know it's a lot of hard work, but you're doing an extremely good job. You know, I look at what you're doing, and I wish we had other chapters that have been established for 10 or 15 years doing the same type of things that you're doing. You're way ahead of the game, but you have a long ways to go, and certainly I commend you for what you've done thus far. You know, I've been involved with M.A.N.R.R.S since 1994. M.A.N.R.R.S has had a really tremendous impact on my life, both personal and professional. See that young lady over there? I met her at a M.A.N.R.R.S conference about 15 years ago.
In Des Moines, Iowa. No less.
And she knew at that point that she was going to marry me, but she said it took me a while to figure it out, but it's been great. And so that's actually a M.A.N.R.R.S baby, so chance. But certainly M.A.N.R.R.S has been a really good organization for me to be involved in. I got involved in 1994. I was working at Southern University in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And up until that time, I've always been involved in working with young people. And I used to be a recruiter for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I just traveled around the country with a group of individuals, and we just went around and told people about agriculture. And then I would actually go back and, based on those contacts, help facilitate getting these individuals employed with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Great opportunity, and I have more than 350 people that I've recruited that are actually working for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And then there are others who are actually working with some other federal agencies. And so when I actually got involved and was invited to the first meeting at Southern University in the fall of 1994, and I saw all the things that were actually going on with the organization. It was a great student networking organization, helping to bridge and prepare young people for careers in the natural resource and related sciences arena, and also the networking opportunities, and most importantly, a support system. That's what's important in terms of your success. It's going to be based on your ability to, number one, hear, and most importantly, communicate. Your communication skills is going to go a long ways in your ability to be successful. Networking, building your network and maintaining your network and growing your network are also going to be important. But that support system will be important as well. And I know I talked to a couple of you this evening, and we talked about studying and what works and what doesn't work, and this whole thing about group studying. That's something that's promoted at the graduate level, that you really study in groups, essentially, that to better help you grasp the different perspectives about what you're doing and a particular subject that you're working on. But as you matriculate and mature, you'll find different techniques that work best for you. And so at the end of the day, it's going to be most importantly what works best for you. So let me back a minute. How many of you all are involved in agriculture?
Just one?
Just one. Okay. All right. Well, let me give you an ag lesson real quick. How many of you have clothes on in here? That's agriculture. My background, after I graduated from school, I went to work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture Ag Marketing Service. They trained me to be a cotton specialist. So I know everything about cotton, from planting to the finished product of the garment that you're wearing. So you're all involved in agriculture. How many of you ate today? That's agriculture. How many of you have a cell phone? Who doesn't have a cell phone besides Chance? Who doesn't have a cell phone? That's agriculture. Before there was AT&T, before there was Mobile, before there was Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint, there was the U.S. Department of Agriculture helping to establish what we call cooperatives, phone cooperatives. And we actually helped individuals establish phone services in a lot of places. And then came along AT&T and Bell South and all these others and bought these small cooperatives up and formed what you see right now. So that's agriculture. Never believed that, huh? Yeah, that's agriculture. Yeah. Let me see. Who has apartment? Who stays in an apartment? You have utilities? Yeah, that's agriculture. We actually started before what we have, Old Dominion or Dominion Power. Before there was Dominion Power and Pepco and all the others, there was actually USDA. We actually helped establish cooperatives that established these utility companies that were eventually bought out by the Dominion. So that's agriculture. So do I need to go on? All right. I grew up on a farm, and up until 3 weeks before I graduated from high school, I knew I was going to be a farmer. I had no intentions of going to college. My dad farmed, my granddaddy farmed, my brothers were working on the farm, so I knew I was going to be a farmer. But what happened is that just one day I was actually in the gym being punished for some improprieties that I'd done in high school. So my coach had me in there doing suicide drills. And just so happened a football coach came down, and the coach that I had permission to discipline me physically if I did not do what he asked me to do. And so I was doing these suicide drills like someone was chasing me. And as a result, this football coach saw me in the different drills I was doing, and he said, well, who is this guy? Why is he in here? And he told me why, and he said, well, he could be a good football player. And he said, well, he did play football. So they got some videotapes on me, and they offered me a scholarship. And so off to college I went. Yeah. And I really had intentions of actually going back to the farm, but after I got in college and was exposed to a lot of different things, I didn't necessarily want to go into the production agriculture, and I'm quite sure most of you here are not interested in production agriculture. Now, in fact, if I mention agriculture, most of you all think about farming and that production aspect of agriculture, but it's a lot more to that. And I think that's where all of you fit into this picture. Agriculture, natural resources and the related sciences area, it's what I call a complicated, sophisticated system of support. So we don't necessarily need individuals to go out here and work in the production end of it. We need folks who have marketing. We need doctors. We need lawyers. In the building I work in, it's 7 miles of hallways. We have doctors working there. We have nurses. We have attorneys. We have judges. So they're all a part of this sophisticated system of support. And so that's where we need you, and that's where you fit into this big picture of agriculture. So we need all of you all in your expertise in those particular areas. You know, like one of my mentees, a young man, he's an electrical engineer. He works with a lot of companies and cooperatives across the country that still are intricately involved in helping the vein to bring electrical services to a lot of rural communities and affordable services to these communities. And so he works with a lot of different organizations and entities to help do those types of things. We do housing. Housing. We've been involved in housing for a long time. So those are things that we do in the agriculture arena. One of the big areas now is food safety. You know, the United States has one of the most safe and secure food production systems in the world. We put a lot of emphasis on food safety. And so there's a big need for individuals in these particular areas. And so as we begin to navigate this whole picture of agriculture and natural resources, we need you all in your respective capacities to be a part of this whole effort. And so that gets me back to when I became involved with M.A.N.R.R.S back in '94. It pulled me off of an island because my whole effort was to really help young people, help them to find opportunities and prepare them for opportunities. That was my whole mission. And so when I got involved with M.A.N.R.R.S, it allowed me to collectively be a part of what I consider a network. And before I move on here, my wife is there.
Can you backtrack a bit and let them know how M.A.N.R.R.S started at Michigan State?
Yeah.
And the phase and how we got there?
Yeah, okay. And so when I actually got involved with the chapter there at the university, it really opened my mind up, and it actually connected me with individuals who were actually in their own way doing all of the things that I was doing. So collectively we began to work together. And so are any of you familiar with the history of M.A.N.R.R.S and how it really got established? I'm going to give you a quick and dirty overview, but I would encourage you to look at the history of M.A.N.R.R.S and how it was established and everything like that to understand all the dynamics that really took place to really bring the organization to where it is today. Back in 1982, there was a student at Michigan State who was majoring in agriculture. In fact, he was majoring in agricultural economics. And in most of his classes, and all of the individuals for the most part that he communicated and networked with were not of color. And so he felt the need to establish an organization that would serve as a support system, a system of mentoring, and also helping to create opportunities. So that was the original premise of him actually coming about in terms of bringing M.A.N.R.R.S into existence. And so when M.A.N.R.R.S first was established on that particular campus, it was M.A.N.R.R.A, M-A-N-R-A, and that stood for the Minorities Agricultural Resources Association. And a couple years later, they communicated with another organization at Penn State, which was called Minorities in Ag, MIA. And after a year or so, the two organizations were in constant communication, decided to actually come together to have the first conference. And the first conference was held in 1986 at Penn State University. And at that conference, they had maybe about 40 participants. Half of them were faculty and staff, the others were students. They had one company or one supporter at that particular event. And now M.A.N.R.R.S has actually grown into an organization that has an annual conference that draws more than 1,000 participants, and we have 80 to 100 exhibitors. So we've come a long ways in a very short time period. But backing back to the history of the organization, you had two organizations that were operating on islands alone. And through communication, they began to come together and start addressing some of the issues. And it led to where M.A.N.R.R.S is today. And over several years, the organization has grown to increase its support. And now we have more than 75 chapters across the country. We went from 2 to now like 75 different chapters across the country. We have an annual conference that draws well over 1,000 participants on an annual basis. There are a number of student competitions and events that actually take place. And all are kind of designed in a fashion to help increase your understanding of the respective fields that you've gone into, also to help enhance your markability and the whole notion of being more successful in these particular careers. And part of that is the developmental activities that actually take place, the research competitions. We use the M.A.N.R.R.S conference as a platform to really expose you and give you experience if you're interested in research, you're interested in public speaking. You know, we have a number of competitions that take place at the annual conference where you actually present your information, and there are people who actually judge your papers or your oral research presentation, your public speaking, all these different events that we actually have taken place, and we give cash awards for individuals who finish first, second, or third. And so there's something for all of you to do if you plan to attend the next conference. I don't know exactly the date, but it'll be in Birmingham, Alabama. And normally it's the 3rd or 4th weekend in the month of March. You should have those dates here in the next week or so. And certainly it'll be a great opportunity for you all to participate. And from a chapter perspective here, M.A.N.R.R.S is not here to compete with any of the organizations here on campus. We're really an organization to help enhance what those organizations are actually offering. How many of you are part of another organization other than that? Probably the majority of you are, which is good. And one of the things that's really good about M.A.N.R.R.S is that we're not there, number one, like I said, to compete with these other organizations, but to really help enhance what they're offering. Oftentimes when you're working with an organization, I'll just give a name, the National Plant Pathology Association, which I know none of you are part of anything like that. They really focus on everything in this plant pathology arena, or maybe engineering, but it's everything associated with this engineering arena. But what M.A.N.R.R.S does, it creates a very broad perspective and creates a platform where you can get outside of your arena and start thinking in another perspective. I was just talking to Lucas, and he was telling me about he went to a event, and it actually dealt with a lot of STEMs, and it actually had a lot of individuals from engineering, different fields of engineering, or everything kind of pretty much associated with the STEMs. And what it does, it broadens your perspective, and that's what you want to do, is really have a very broad perspective about what you want to do and what the opportunities are available to you. And really, if you look back and How many of you freshmen? Sophomore, freshman and sophomore. You have an idea about what you want, but you really don't know. And what happens here, the more exposure you have, the more opportunities to network and talk and communicate with individuals. They will help you form a more specific approach to what you want to do and how you would like to matriculate in your respective disciplines and the type of experiences that you would like to be exposed to. So this is what M.A.N.R.R.S is all about. It's really the networking. Our main objective is networking. And the other thing is that we really are focusing on is development. We really want to help develop you. And that development, career development, it's a team approach. What's important to me? If you're a student here at Virginia Commonwealth University, there are probably 4 things that are important to you. Career, the organization that you're part of, your community. You know, these things really fall into the whole big picture of what you want to do. These things here will have a profound impact in terms of your developmental aspects of your life and your matriculation here at the institution. So what you want to do is actually really focus on being the best that you can be in all these particular areas. Because the bottom line is that you want to be marketable once you leave here, whether you're going on to pursue an advanced degree, or you're going into the work environment, or if you're interested in being an entrepreneur. These things are all important to you in terms of how you begin to, this will help you, the things that you do here now will really help you. There are some very unique challenges that I've experienced over the last couple of years here. Up until about 2 years ago, someone could actually call me and say, well, you know, I'm interested in working in this particular area. I could actually pick up the phone and call someone, and it's a done deal. Someone would take care of them. The hookup. We were all familiar with the term hookup? Yeah. I used to do that, but the dynamics have changed, the market situation has changed, the economy has really changed, and you really don't have afforded those types of opportunities as you have in the past. And so what happened, that makes M.A.N.R.R.S more important. Why it's more important that you be a part of an organization like M.A.N.R.R.S. Because of what you want to do, you want to create the best opportunity for you to be successful. And I think M.A.N.R.R.S creates that opportunity, the best opportunity for you to be successful. And so part of doing that is being part of an organization that's going to expose you and put you in a network of individuals that's going to really help you meet those objectives. One of the things about these new dynamics of going into the workforce now is that you're having to compete with individuals who have 8, 9, 10 years of experience. And you're walking out who may not have any experience, but you have to compete with these individuals for an entry-level job. So what are you bringing to the table that's going to make that employer really want to consider you for employment opportunities? These are things that you have to begin to develop and create for yourself while you're here in school. And M.A.N.R.R.S is a platform to do that. And one of the key things to your success is going to be communication. Communication, communication, communication. What you do here now will certainly lay the platform for your ability to be a good communicator down the road. And whatever it is that you want to do, the bottom line here, and just keep this in mind as you begin to matriculate in your respective careers. Let me see, how many of you are interested or are actually majoring in engineering, some field of engineering? Business, medical. And what's going to happen actually is that what's going to be important is your ability to communicate and be able to handle business. That's going to be important. You're going to have to be able to handle business. I know a lot of, in fact, 2 of my best friends are doctors. One is an OB-GYN, the other one is an ENT, ear, nose, and throat surgeon. And both of them are actually going back to school and got their MBA because they said, you know, they've really developed that skill set, but the business aspect is so important that they've actually had to go back and get their MBAs and really focus on the business aspect of what they're doing. And what happens here, employers will recruit you for your specialized field of study, but at the end of the day, if you want to matriculate and be successful within that organization, it's going to be based on your ability to establish and develop these intangible skills that's going to put you above. They want individuals who have good communication skill. Well, should I rephrase that, Joel? It's more than good. You have to be gooder than good. The goodest, the most, the very most goodest. All right. All right. That's so important. They want you to be able to be a team player. They want you to be able to handle adverse circumstances and situations. They want you to be honest. and they want you to be able to lead others. And you can't, you just can't walk in with that. You have to establish that. And so part of what you have to do in this matriculation to your respective disciplines is that you have to begin to develop those situations and respond to those types of questions. You have to establish these, you have to build these experiences and put it in your memory bank and understand these things here. And what happens here when you're going through an interview process, you have to sell a vision about yourself. You have to sell a vision that I'm the person you need 5 or 6 years down the road. I'm the person that'll be there in 10 years. That's the kind of vision that you have to sell for yourself. When you go in, you have to sell a vision about yourself that people want to buy into it. And this mean of buying into it is actually giving you that opportunity for employment or research or whatever it may be to move into that arena. Moving back to manners. Okay. So can anybody tell me about what are their thoughts about manners just joining the organization? What kind of benefit do you think manners, you anticipate manners bringing to you about being a part of it? Would anybody like to try that?
Come on, don't be so formal.
That's right.
Let's chat.
Z, you want to go?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity just in terms of building a good network, which the organizations, other organizations I'm a part of, they don't really focus on that. I think it always helps to know somebody who's outside of your field, because you never know when you might be able to help them, they might be able to help you out. Like yourselves, I feel really good that I got to know you guys, because I feel like I can use that resource in the future.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
When I first joined M.A.N.R.R.S, I put too much stock in the A. I thought it was going to be about agriculture, and I thought, well, maybe we could contact someone like that because it's totally different. Think of all these people in agriculture and all those related fields, and in biomedical engineering where I'm studying, and there's no contact between the two.
Yeah.
So making contact with them, it's a contact no one else in my class is getting, a contact no one else in my field of study would be getting, that maybe I could use someday. That's why.
Yeah, and so most medical drugs are derived from what?
Plant.
Okay. You know, I have one of my mentees is actually finishing her PhD, graduating next month. And she's also the daughter of one of my best friends. And so the plan was for her to go to undergrad, then go to medical school, and once she finished medical school, she would be in a position where she would take over her dad's practice. And so she went to undergrad, and in her last year, she said, Uncle Carl, I don't want to go to medical school. I want to go into sports medicine. And I said, okay. I said, have you talked to your dad about this? She said, no way. So we talked, and I said, well, have you ever thought about agriculture? She said, well, I'm not interested in agriculture. I said, well, why not? She said, well, I'm just not interested in agriculture. I came from Bakersfield, California. I had enough agriculture. And I said, well, no, you haven't had enough. And so we began to talk, and I explained to her. And I said, well, I can connect you with a school. In fact, I referred her to a friend at Virginia Tech. And they invited her down, and they talked with her, and actually brought her into an accelerated PhD program. And so, even though she was interested in sports medicine, I steered her toward the nutrition aspect of health. And after that, it says, nobody really approaches the medical field from the nutrition aspect of it. And so we were able, and with her going into this PhD program, you can kind of carve out your own little niche. And so she's able to go back into the sports medicine arena, having a nutrition background. So she's back in that arena, and she was able to go to school, didn't cost anything but time, and so she's out of debt, and she's probably making much as any doctor would be making that. So it worked out. And so that's what you have to do as part of your network, is you begin to talk to people, to find out what they're doing, and see if it's fits what you're doing or how it could connect to what you're doing, and maybe it could actually be a path to where you need to be going. So that's what this whole M.A.N.R.R.S network is about, exposing you to all these different avenues, and then you begin to see how these different avenues may assist you in terms of what you want to do.
And I talked with some of you when I was here last Friday about the M.A.N.R.R.S conference. That's where you meet the executives from the big companies, the John Deere's, the Monsanto's, the M.A.N.R.R.S. You meet all the big wigs who are just kind of scoping you out to see who you are, and they're planning ahead. They're meeting you as a freshman, sophomore, but they're waiting till you finish. And that's when you start the networking. You start talking with the men, you start sharing your resumes, connecting with other people in your major, people outside your majors, and other schools. And that's how the networking begins. My background's accounting. I'm an auditor. Nothing ag. But then someone talked me into going to a M.A.N.R.R.S conference back in 98? Was it 98? 1998.
You don't remember that year?
Of course I do. So I went. It was in Iowa. I went to the conference. It was my major professor. We were colleagues. We worked at the same university. And he says, "Don't you want to get a master's in ag?" And I was like, "No way. How do you put accounting in ag? How does that work?" He says, "Well, just come to the conference with me." We paid for it. I went to the conference. The rest is history. I ended up getting a master's in agricultural extension and education. I work in the accounting field, but my plan is, when I get tired of that, I'm going to go teach agriculture in a rural area, maybe cooperative, corporate extension, teaching someone how to do accounting for their farm business. So I'm making the connection now. So you guys think about it. Any major that you're in, let's say John Deere. You think tractors, you think grain, that kind of thing. You can really use any major. They need accountants. They need lawyers. I mean, you name it. They need engineers. You think about it, you would think, well, agriculture, Monsanto is a grain company. But the grain company needs bookkeepers, accountants, business people. They need lawyers, attorneys. They need nutrition. They need all of that. So start thinking about agriculture in a different way. Because any agriculture company can hire you in your field. So people usually graduate and think about, well, we're going to go to a business IBM, because I have a business, I have an IT degree. Well, the Monsantos and the John Deere, they need IT people too. And because people aren't thinking about IT and that kind of stuff at the John Deere's, there's more opportunities there that you can fill. So kind of start thinking about it that way as you think about your majors and what you're doing. No one's asking you to change your majors to ag-based. The reason we put related sciences is because it could be any major at all. As a matter of fact, there used to be a program, I don't know if USDA still does the 1890 scholarship program. Before they did a program where you can major in ag or any related science and get a full ride, full scholarship, books, tuition, computer, and a job. But because of the budget and the sequester, we have no money for that. But those are the kinds of things you look forward to when you're networking. So think about it. When I talked with some of you about the conference in Birmingham, I said start making plans for it, start fundraising. I want you guys to really get there, because we can sit here and talk about it all day, but if you don't get there and experience the conference for yourself, you won't understand quite what we're saying until you get there. You see the network, you see the people, you see your peers, your colleagues from, my God, the diversity, the background. There's schools from the Deep South to schools in Puerto Rico. You think about it, schools everywhere. There used to be, I don't have a conference program, I meant to bring one where they list all the schools that are official with official M.A.N.R.R.S chapters. So I sent the paperwork to Peter for you guys to do the paperwork, get your charter, get all that information in for the next upcoming year, because I want to see all of you guys at conference. I've not missed a conference since I started. Chance missed his first one last year. California's a little too expensive, so he stayed home. But I encourage you to think about agriculture and M.A.N.R.R.S in a much broader perspective, and bring your other organizations into it. And I think Carl's going to touch base, talk with you guys about some things you can do as an organization that will help other organizations. So, Mr. Butler.
Thank you. Well, you know, I could go on and on about the M.A.N.R.R.S connection, and we can do that, but I think it's important that we begin to start moving forward with your chapter. And what we can begin to do now, I think what will be important for you all as a group to collectively maybe have a retreat before the year is up, to plan your calendar for the next academic school year. I think it may be important that you all actually develop a theme for your next year, your next academic year. I think it'd be good that you have a theme. And this theme could be whatever you want it to be. That's up to you all. That's just a suggestion. But start working towards your next year. You want to put a calendar in place, and I know a lot of things happen, but there are some concrete things that you can begin to put on your calendar now that will be important to you as you move forward in the next year, the academic school year. I know one of the things for you all as you're developing your chapter is to how do you grow your chapter? How do you grow your chapter? How do you grow your membership? Part of it is visibility. It may be advantageous to maybe have your meetings, see what works best. Having a meeting, sometimes Sunday evenings may be a good time to start thinking about, and you can actually have pizza or something. That could be a nice little draw. Some of those things will really help in terms of that. Moving it to other colleges, those particular disciplines that you want to bring in, having it in another college sometime to invite individuals who are majoring in that particular area to maybe be a part of that. The other thing would be to is really look at what you're trying to do. Like say for instance, you want to be visible. So there may be individuals who may be majoring in marketing, mass communication. You want to help them build their portfolio. They can come into your chapter as a member and begin to help you with the PR and the publications and things like that. They have Facebook and Twitter. They can begin to help manage that. And what you're doing is really helping them build their portfolio so that they go out and start seeking employment opportunities. They can see all the things that they're actually doing to help your chapter, and this helps them as well. Like if they're going to have their own little web page or something, they can do that. Like if someone is interested in photography, they can begin to start taking pictures for your chapter and begin to start cataloging this from a historical perspective. And other things. So you just kind of be broad in terms of your scope, in terms of what you need, and start looking at individuals across campus, because you want everybody across this campus to be a part of your organization here. If someone is actually interested in helping to, if they're in accounting, could be maybe a vice treasurer or something, or assistant treasurer, and they could be a part of helping to bring your financial components into a formal order or whatever that may be. So you just have to think broad in terms of that as you begin to interact with individuals, and just let them all know that there's a place for them. Anything that they want to do can happen within the M.A.N.R.R.S network.
And since you talked about photography, if you look at the magazine I passed out, this is the first place photo contest winner, and the back is the second page. So these are the type of contests that M.A.N.R.R.S offers. So every organization, every company that sponsors M.A.N.R.R.S got one of these magazines, and they see what you guys are doing. Some of you talked to me about a run that you guys participated in last week.
Yeah, U-Crops 10K.
You took pictures.
Yeah.
This is the magazine I was telling you to send the pictures to with your chapter. If you send a picture to the magazine, it's published once a year, it's handed out at a national conference, we'll put you in the magazine. And that's another way to highlight your school, your chapter, etc. So take a look at this. Is the most recent one that was handed out at the conference in California. And read the articles in it. And read the research.
This is one of my mentees.
Yeah.
We brought her out of a shell. She's doing great things now. And it just gives you ideas about things that you can actually do at your chapter in terms of community service. Extraordinary young lady. She actually got a chance to go to the inauguration, President Obama's first inauguration. She actually had a free trip up there, 3 or 4 days. I mean, there were tickets going. She had a free ride up there for like 4 or 5 days. She got to go places I couldn't go. And it happened through her M.A.N.R.R.S network. She was an individual who's very shy, never talked to anybody. I actually had an opportunity to go up to Oregon State and work with the chapter. And I challenged her to be an officer. She started out working with the local chapter, and then she became a national officer of M.A.N.R.R.S. And so that's something for you all to think about as well, is maybe being one of the national officers.
And if you guys think about, if you want ideas about what chapters are doing really great things you want to be in contact with, let me know. Oregon State, the chapter advisor is Rhonda Cornell. She'll be more than willing to help you guys with anything, any questions. The chapter at UDC, where Peter's brother was. Michelle Harris
Yeah.
is the advisor there. So people are willing and able to help. You guys can visit the local chapters that are kind of close, the ones UDC, College Park. Bowie State has a chapter now. So pick up the phone, make some contacts. I think there's a M.A.N.R.R.S Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken. You have your own chapter Facebook page that you link to the national page. We do? Excellent.
We have a Facebook in 3 days.
Oh, you guys are all that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. So those are things you need to keep doing, but document what you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things here is that, certainly take pictures and photos and, document that. You can submit articles that go in the M.A.N.R.R.S magazine. They only print maybe 1 or 2 hard copies, but they're going to actually have this newsletter or magazine available on the website. You can submit articles, like say for instance, if there are individuals who like writing, they can begin to actually conduct interviews or do articles or gather information and submit that, and it goes through our M.A.N.R.R.S network. This will be a part of their portfolio.
this is also a magazine from last year, just a smaller version. They were trying something different, so just a pocket size, there's a magazine. And this is always on the website, so you can always find the magazines there.
Yeah. And as we talk about building your chapter, what's going to be important is you establish partners on this campus and off this campus. And that's what I'll actually begin to work with you in terms. I actually was at the National Science Teachers Association conference in San Antonio last week. And we actually had dinner at the Alamo, which was actually the first time. Oh gosh, she brought me a rose. Okay.
Did you like it?
No, thank you. That's okay. All right. What happened here? I actually had an opportunity to have dinner at the Alamo, which is the first time ever this is actually happening. DuPont actually sponsored a dinner at the Alamo on the grounds of the Alamo. We actually had dinner, which is almost unheard of. And the speaker for that dinner was actually the vice president, one of the vice presidents, and he's actually located here in Richmond. And so after the dinner, I said, well, I've been involved in working with VCU. I said, do you know where they is? He said, oh yeah, that's 2 blocks away. So I actually invited him to come over, but it was like last minute he wasn't able to come, but certainly I think that's going to be a great opportunity and a great partnership for you all. And I'll help you all in terms of trying to foster that partnership. But what I need you to actually start thinking about is different organizations. I don't know how the university works in terms of who you're allowed to talk to for sponsorship or support, but you all actually need to find out what are your parameters as it relates to who you can approach about sponsorship and support. You need to look at some fundraising activities that you can actually do and begin to plan those things and make it a part of your planning for this next calendar year. How do you bring funding into the organization? What type of activities can you have? You want to actually have some visibility in terms of hosting a couple of things. I know Joel and I were talking about, I said, well, one of the things that the chapter could possibly do is an impromptu speaking competition. That's something to think about, or some other type of competition.
Campus-wide.
Campus-wide impromptu speaking competition. One thing I would encourage you to do is maybe begin to purchase you some type of shirt to be branding, start your branding. My wife has on a lovely shirt that I think the national officers actually have. And I think the year that I was in services, this is one of the shirts that we actually developed. You can buy some very inexpensive shirts and have a monogram or something like
and
that.
I think I can actually get you guys some of the logos, some of these patches.
Yeah.
You can put do your own shirts.
Yeah.
I'll try to get those for you.
Yeah. And so there are things you can begin to do, and you want to always have visibility. If there are events going on, offer to host, and I would encourage you to maybe get some type of shirt that makes you stand out, and so people can ask, well, who is that group in, whatever that is. So these are things that you can begin to do is get additional visibility, host different events. One of the things here I think may be good for you all and all of the different organizations on campus is a workshop on parliamentary procedures, Robert's Rule of Order. It would be a great workshop to help you all, and it will also help other chapter executive teams in terms of how they run and operate their business. So those are things you can begin to do. The different food drives or clothing drives. whatever you think it may be, those are things that you can begin to do to really help.
And
Blood drive, so it's all these things here are just things that you have to start thinking about. There is a, and we have to find out, I wasn't able to find it. There is something called Collegiate Life Knowledge. It's a program, it's a web-based program, and it has about 120 courses on it, and it's designed to produce what we call ready-made grads. And this particular thing focuses on community, personal, organization, and career. 4 aspects, and it has courses under each one of those. Like say for instance, it gives you step by step, like say for instance, you want to plan a community service project. It'll take you step through step about how you need to plan it, how you evaluate the success of it, just everything associated with that. Like say for instance, you want to have a meeting. It'll show you how to develop your agenda and create and develop objectives in terms of things that you want to have on the agenda. It takes you through everything here, and what it does, all these different courses here, I've been promoting it. And my thing is, if you actually take a third of the courses that are listed on that 120, you'll be a step ahead of practically all the students that will be coming out along with your class. And so I would encourage you to look at that, and I'll make sure I get you that information. And I think it should be set up where you would actually put in you'll have an email and a password, and you just indicate that you're affiliated with M.A.N.R.S, and it'll give you access, and you can go in and out whenever you need to and access it whenever you wish. And I think it'll be a tremendous help to you in terms of some of the things that you're doing. And what you want to do as a chapter, you want to develop a signature about yourself. You want people to know who you are. Things that you do, people will know that. That's M.A.N.R.S. That's who we are, and that's how we operate. That's how we do things. So there won't be any doubt that this was a program and it was very successful. That's M.A.N.R.S. That's how you want to really go about establishing it. Make a commitment to this organization to make it grow, and it's going to make you grow as well. So it's a lot of things you can do. I've talked about a number of things, and I know y'all have about 25 burning questions, so I want to stop right now and try to maybe address any of those. Anybody? Any brave souls?
Well, let me add that when you're talking about sponsorship, it may not be a bad idea for you guys to do an electronic, a CD with all your activities, so that when you address a sponsor and you want them to help support and fund you, you can hand this, hey, this is what we're doing, so look at what we've done. So that's not a bad idea to create a CD for your chapter of all your activities, or a short write-up about what you're doing. Chance is really anxious about passing stuff out, so that's why.
The other thing that would be helpful for you all, even going to the conference, is to create a CD-ROM of all of your resumes.
That's right.
Create a CD-ROM of all of your resumes, so that when you go around to the different exhibitors, you want to be able to give them, they'll have your information. They would be most appreciative of that type of, or what's more modern now is you put it on a thumb drive. And you can just hand it to them and say, this is our chapter, feel free to contact us. This will be very important. The other thing here that keep in mind here as you begin to plan for the next year, or your plans for next summer, you need to start thinking about that right now. Keep in mind that most employers, most opportunities are presented in the fall of the year. So I would encourage you to connect with your career services, and from there you want to make sure you are registered with career services, because there will be employers, there will be organizations and different programs that will be sent through your career services, and you want to actually be aware of these things. Because what happens when you get around to March and April, most of the opportunities are pretty much confirmed by then. And so it'll be important to you to actually get your name out there, seek employment opportunities in the fall of the year, because by March, most final decisions or offers are extended by then. And so you want to make sure your name is out there. One thing about M.A.N.R.S here, up until about 2 years ago, every student attending the conference had about an average of maybe 2.5 offers. That's almost unheard of. But that's what was available to them. Each student had an average of maybe 2.5 offers. And one of the things about M.A.N.R.R.S is that actually the employers go to the conference and they hold a certain number of slots because they know they're going to get a quality group of students from within the M.A.N.R.R.S organization, so they will actually hold these different slots available to pick students up at the conference. So that's good. Like say, for instance, I know a lot of you are interested in medical, but what's going to be really helpful for you is getting that research experience. And so a lot of these employers have research experience available. There are other universities that have summer research opportunities. And that's what you want to do. You want to actually be able to go out and get some additional experience. It makes you competitive for medical school because you're getting this additional experience. You're gaining lab experience and being familiar with the different techniques and things that are actually offered. This will make you more competitive. And it also exposes you to this whole research arena where you can actually begin to present information, do research and present at different conferences. You get a chance to travel and do a lot of different things. One of my students here back in 1994, I recruited this kid from high school. He was recruited like an athlete. I mean, there were universities all over the country recruiting this young man. And I was able to recruit him to Southern University. And I promised this young man the world. And he was a very sharp young man. So what I did actually with him coming in and knowing that he was a very unique student, I actually brought him in and I got him involved in research his freshman year. He had to get up at 3:30 every morning and go take milk samples and analyze them. And so within his second semester, he was actually presenting his research at different competitions. So when he went in his sophomore year, he was actually able to compete with some graduate students with his research. And this young man actually had aspiration to go to vet school. But I was able to get him one summer experience where he was able to shadow a doctor. And so he decided that he wanted to go to medical school. He went to Stanford University for medical school. And he's one of the few students who came out of medical school, did not know or died. They actually paid him to teach classes when he was in medical school. And when he came out of medical school, he was a head resident at Johns Hopkins. That's agriculture. So it's so many ways that you can get the experience. I'm not asking you to deviate from that, but just be broad in your thinking and your approach because, he was actually there. He was doing this research with animals, but it all had such a connection in the end that it really prepared him to be competitive for other opportunities. So that's what you have to think about. And that's how I think your involvement and exposure to M.A.N.R.R.S will really create these types of opportunities for you, just from that perspective, a very broad perspective. Questions?
And really quickly, on the front of this brochure here, changing the face of agriculture by making hands around the world, that's the official M.A.N.R.R.S motto. So be sure you know and understand that.
Yeah.
And the mission statement is written somewhere else.
Yeah.
So do some research and get your paperwork in sooner than later.
Yeah. One of the other things here is M.A.N.R.R.S. We've actually have some chapters here, like in the state of California, University of California, Davis. There's a chapter that had to have what we call almost what we call an underground chapter. And what happened here is that the term minorities is not within the state, they're not really allowed to use that term. And me with this organization, when we started out, M.A.N.R.R.S was primarily established for minorities. But we are a very multicultural organization, and I want you to emphasize it all the time. I've even pushed that we even maybe consider, rather than saying minorities, it's multiculturalism. And certainly, I want you to always emphasize multiculturalism within agricultural, and just help people to understand it's more than just an organization for minorities, it's an organization for everyone. There are opportunities available for everyone, and our whole effort is to really promote personal and career development for all the students involved and offer that support system. And so we're here to really help students across this campus.
And to add to that, there's conversation at the national level whether or not we even want to use the term minority anymore. But of course, you know, there are people, the person who founded M.A.N.R.R.S is still around. He comes to the conference every year. His name is David Weatherspoon from Michigan State. He's a professor out there, so remember that name because you'll meet him at conference. People there are two opinions. This is the history, why change it? But we had a conversation, Carl and I hosted at the national conference this year to have a discussion. Would it be so bad to think about changing to multiculturalism, or would it be so bad to just simply do a branding and we just use the acronyms and not the verbiage? So there is some conversation going on because some schools, especially out west, are having a really hard time with the term minority. And in some cases, they're not getting funding because that term is on it. And quite frankly, the organizational process has changed. It's adapted. It used to be, I would say, when I first joined, I guess it was 90% African American. 92%. Now it's different. You see all types of faces. Diversity is amazing. So I think it's time to have a conversation about whether or not you want to keep using the word minority and what it means. It may be something positive to one side, it may be something very negative to someone else. So we need to have the conversation. So as you're promoting M.A.N.R.R.S, have the conversation up front. If someone says, well, no, I don't want to join because it's minority, explain to them, hey, that's not the intent. You know, we're more than that. And then, I mean, my God, just by you guys' faces in the room, they should know it's not about minorities, it's about diversity. So focus on that until we get more direction, more conversation at the national level. Okay.
And as you begin, start thinking about, as you plan, start thinking about potential sponsors and supporters of your chapter. And think about, I would encourage you to establish a budget. If you're looking at sending a certain number of members to the conference next year, you want to get a cost on that. And you don't get an actual cost. If it's going to cost you about $800 for a ticket and room, when you approach individuals, you're going to say, well, this is $1,100 sponsorship or $1,000 sponsorship for a student. And you may want to even approach this from the perspective of saying that, would you be interested in sponsoring a student to the national conference? And how you may ask for that amount, but what will happen when you go to conference, 2, 3, or 4 people share a room. And so you put the room cost in, but you don't necessarily need it for 4 people, but you want to demonstrate to them that this is a cost for each individual. And what you're doing is building revenues for your chapter. You may want to have a chapter dues or something like that. You know, certainly your fundraising activities, start looking at your different avenues in which you can actually raise funds for your organization. I commend you on the community service projects and things that you're doing. Look at ways in which you can actually begin to leverage that. There are organizations out there that are trying to do the things that you're doing as a chapter. It may be such that they may be willing to sponsor you in a fashion that you can continue to do these type of things and really help generating a revenue or providing a service that people are actually paying for. But certainly look at that and certainly work with your university and your chapter advisor to find out what the parameters and the liability that may be associated with what that is. If you have a homecoming activity or if there is another event or something, you may want to do something for a parade or whatever. You know, just use your network to see how you can get visibility.
Do you all have a chapter advisor?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Mr. Lyons and Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, we met him on Friday. Okay, very good.
Yes.
Yeah. And what you want to also do is maybe look at maybe 1 or 2 other advisors so that you can continue to move forward because he's advising you. He's advising other chapters as well.
Yeah.
Collegiate 100.
He's an advisor for the deal one there.
You can even have a grad student as your advisor, and that would be fine as well.
Yeah, so just look at ways in which you can actually maybe do that so that you can still continue to do business and develop a process that certainly he's comfortable with in the process. Yes.
Is everyone in the room undergrad? Do we have any graduate students? Open it up to graduate students. Let them know what the opportunities are too, especially those who are doing research.
Yeah.
That's the way to promote it.
Yeah, they can actually present at the conference. One of the things you want to do is, I don't know exactly what the process is that completing your paperwork and being recognized as a student organization on your campus is something that you want to actually do because through academic affairs and SGA, there's funding available for student development. what they call professional development. This includes funding to help you get to a conference sometime. So what you want to do, number one, is establish a budget with the intent that whatever number of members you have, you like to get to the conference. You want to challenge the members. You don't want them just to go there to observe, but you want them to go there and participate in something. If you have freshmen who may be coming in, you know, it may be such that you want to establish a point system for your chapter, that based on this point system, this determines who may get to go to the conference. So you want to look at several different avenues to see what are viable options as you move forward. Questions? You can ask me questions as my wife is coming. Yes.
Actually, I think you kind of answered it. I'm a junior here.
Yes.
But I intend to go to MCD right across the road here for dental.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if I am, going to be a graduate student, can I continue with my membership in M.A.N.R.R.S?
Absolutely, yes, because we actually have students who PhD. Yes, so absolutely. We have a number of students. We have, in terms of officers, we have the undergrad officers, and then we have six undergrad officers, Region 1 through 6, then the grad VP, and then a parliamentarian. So there are 8 individuals who are the grad officer corps, and then we have the undergrad officer corps. So you've got that. So yes, you can be definitely involved as a graduate student. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
You suggest that we give a workshop for parliamentary procedure. Would you think it'd be better to do a parliamentary procedure one, or just a very general public speaking one to get more people interested into it?
That's your call. And as it relates to parliamentary, I could actually, there are probably some individuals around, and then I actually have a young man that's here in Virginia that could probably present that for you. So whatever you decide to do, let me know, and I can maybe identify someone that could possibly assist you with that. So the number of people, you may actually know someone who could actually do the parliamentary procedure workshop, or even as it relates to public speaking, whatever you choose to do. It may be some other type of event or activity that you would like to know. So whatever that may be. Yeah. Questions? All right.
Let's give our speaker a round of applause. Well, Mr. Butler, we certainly thank you and your wife for coming out today and giving such a nice presentation. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed it today.